Hey everyone, it's Ashley Gronewald with Hunter Row Real Estate, and I actually have my sister-in-law, Tori Young, with me today. Thanks for joining us, Tori.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thank you. And the reason I asked Tori to join us is because she is also a real estate agent. If you can believe it, we have 4 real estate agents in the family between Jed, myself, their dad, and Tori as well. So lots of real estate discussions in our family around the dinner table, which is fun. But I think the question I get often is, how do you do it? How do you do real estate and be a mom? Because for both Tori and I, and she will share this, it's really important to us to be present with our kids and our families and to build into our marriage. And then Tori's husband is a pastor, and so they're very involved in their church, as are Jed and I. And so the big question is, how do you do the balancing act? And so that's why I wanted Tori to share, because we do it differently. We live in different states. She's in Tennessee doing real estate. I'm here in Raleigh. And then she has many more children than I do. She has 5, whereas I have 3. So think it through what that looks like. And then I want you to share, Tori, with us, what does the balancing act of being a mom, now grandma, so that's the 5th one, is the grandma part of it, and being a real estate agent. So share with us.
Yeah. So, you asked the question, how do you balance it? And I would say very carefully. There's a lot that goes into that. It is a challenge for sure to balance that, but it requires a lot of planning. So I do spend a great deal of time really planning out as much as I can my weeks, of course, with real estate. Some things are spontaneous, so you can't always plan for everything, but it does help as much planning as I can get done. Then when those spontaneous times come up, it's a little easier to navigate. I also have learned how to be willing to receive help. So that's something that I have had to grow in as I've added children and as business has gotten more busy, being able to receive help. We have such a beautiful church community. There's lots of people who are willing to, drop a meal off every once in a while to me, or just recognize that we're juggling a lot. So being willing to receive that and be thankful for it and not reject that, I think has been something that's been really good for us. Something else too is that we've had to open up our hands and be willing to pay for some services, some childcare at times, or someone occasionally to come in and clean the house, or, just different things that we're realizing, hey, I literally cannot do it all. And so we've got to be willing to, use some of the blessing that God's given us to help kind of manage that, to be able to keep things going. But yeah, and then I would say probably one of the most important things is learning how to be gracious with myself in that, because I cannot balance it perfectly. And like I just said, I can't do everything all the time. And so realizing, some things are not going to get done, and that's okay.
That's really good. I think the one thing, like that you said, it's not a perfect balancing act. It's you're figuring it out, and seasons are different. I know delegating is huge for our family, of delegating out the things that other people could do, probably better than Jed or I could do, but for us to do the things that only we can do within our business.
Right.
And that's the negotiating, that's the business building, the managing type of thing. Well, how about we'll go back and forth just asking each other questions so that people can see the difference between our business models.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was just curious, and I think people would be curious as to why you decided to become a realtor and what you've liked the most over the years. You've been a realtor for how many years now?
10 plus.
10, yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's been 4 about for me. So
awesome. Yeah, so there's another difference. Well, it's funny how it came about for me, because I wasn't a little girl that was like, I want to be a real estate agent. I don't think. My close friend says that I said that when I was a little girl. I don't remember that. But my dad, as a little girl, told me I could sell ice to an Eskimo. Oh. And so he knew that I had that gifting for sales. I just didn't know it would be houses, I guess. And so I was selling fitness and wellness and nutrition, because those were things I went to school for, things I was passionate about and loved. And I thought, you're only a good salesperson if you love and are passionate about what you're selling. Well, little did I know that you could still use your sales giftings towards something like houses that I'm not super passionate about houses. I really don't even enjoy looking at houses, to be quite honest. I see them as a place to live. There's some really cool features about houses, but my husband, your brother, the complete opposite. He loves houses. He gets such a thrill going to houses. And so for me, it was when a friend of mine got into real estate and said, you don't have to love houses to be good in real estate, but it does provide some freedom and flexibility and a greater financial ROI, essentially, that you could buy some time back, because sitting behind a desk selling gym memberships and fitness and wellness programs was really not giving me the freedom that I wanted. And so when they offered that to me, I thought that's enticing. And then I was dating your brother at the time. So he's a real estate agent. My best friend's a real estate agent. And so I was like, there's potentially a future here. So I went and got my real estate license, and I will never regret that decision. It was the best thing for me, I think, for our family. And then, I mean, you asked a second part of that question is like, what have you liked the most over the years about being a real estate agent? And for me, being an achiever, I love the sales goals and meeting those goals, exceeding those goals, pushing myself. And then there is the relational component of when you're walking through a real estate transaction, it becomes very personal. It can become very stressful. It can be hard, fun, exciting. There's so many emotions. And so there is a counseling side of it that you get to really like try to hold the hand of the client to make them feel comfortable, excited, because we do this hundreds of times. They do it a few times in their lifetime. So trying to take that stress away and giving them confidence that I've got this for you. I love that part of it. And then, being competitive. I love competing within my firm to be the best. I love that. That is so fun to me.
Oh gosh,
that would be mine. Let me jump back to you and ask, how has being a real estate agent benefited your family? Because I've definitely seen this for mine. How would you say it has for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like it benefits us a lot in a lot of different ways. For me, real estate really came at a time for our family where we, there were a couple of things, going on. We had a child who was in some need for some, really expensive care at that point in time. And, a lot of challenges with just our kids in general at that point, to where I was honestly needing an outlet to be able to utilize some of the gifting that God had given me, even just outside of my home, and give me something to kind of focus on, but also be able to help provide for some of the needs that our kids had at that point. So, that was such an incredible opportunity. I realized pretty early on in that it was something that I found a brokerage that connected really well with my current situation at that time. And they were really willing to work with me on, when I needed to be in the office, or, when I needed to be a part of sales meetings and different things. And so that was very helpful. They were very flexible with me on all of those things. I was able to work from home a lot. So the flexibility in, really being able to plan around scheduling, the things that my kids really needed at that point. There were, doctor's appointments or different, just different things we needed to be able to do. And so I had a lot of flexibility there with that. I think the other really cool thing that it has brought for us over the past 4 years is an opportunity to even grow in our generosity toward others. So it's, provided for us financially the needs that we've had. And then it has also given us the ability to give in a way that, we wanted to and weren't necessarily always able to because of some of the, constraints on what we had available to us. And so that's been really neat to see us be able to, provide meals for other people, and to be able to even support some of the ministry efforts that our church has. And our kids have been able to be a part of those things. And so there's so many benefits that I feel like that through what I've been able to do with real estate, that our kids get to participate in that generosity, and also, of course, get to benefit from, us not feeling so strapped financially or concerned financially because we have income.
I 100% agree. And I love that piece of it too. Like you said, freedom and flexibility, but an outlet for you as well as a mom, and then generosity. So those are awesome.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, of course, that Jed is also a realtor. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit just about the dynamic of having a husband as a realtor. My husband's a pastor, so there's a little bit obviously of a difference there, but you both are doing this every day. And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. And Jed's been a real estate agent longer. So he's probably 16 plus years at this point working with his dad, your dad.
Yep.
So for a long time, they've been doing this. So I definitely lean on him for a ton of support, which I love, to be able to ask him, hey, I've got this situation. What would you do? But then now I've got enough experience under my belt that he asked me that same question. And I love it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're not in it, like as heavily, you can see it with a clearer perspective. And so sometimes he's able to give me solutions that I couldn't think of in the heat of the moment and vice versa. So we brainstorm together, we create problem solving and solutions, and we play devil's advocate with one another. So it really is a huge blessing. And, at the end of the year, when I'm really excited if I've hit my sales goal, he's always quick to remind me that he was a big part of that, because, it's true, because I do ask him a million gazillion questions. Even though he doesn't have direct contact with my clients, he almost does, because he's helping, me just with different perspective. Now, early on in our marriage, I think it was hard because I was so competitive that's not always healthy in a marriage to be competitive with your spouse.
Yes.
But he had a buddy tell him, dude, she's doing really good. It all goes to the same pot. Be excited about that, and he was able to change his perspective. So he's super supportive of me and a big cheerleader of mine. But I think the other thing that's helpful is that we know each other's language and we know our industry. So whereas if he was a doctor and he came home, I wouldn't know the last bit of what he was talking about and maybe not be super interested. But when he comes home and talks about real estate, I can totally relate, understand. And then we kind of can give each other some grace towards him taking a call, maybe right at dinner time, which is frustrating, but I understand it because real estate doesn't happen 9 to 5. And it allows us to go take a week off to Africa like we've done because we have people who help serve our clients while we're gone. So I think that's helped our marriage and just having a common ground of understanding. But overall, just it allows for lots of discussion at the dinner table, to say the least.
Yeah. For sure.
For you, what do you love most about helping people buy and sell homes, and then at the same time raising your kids? What do you like about that?
Yeah, I think you even hit on this a little bit earlier yourself. I love being able to help people navigate something that I think is considered one of the most stressful decisions a person can make. I love being able to, walk alongside somebody in that process and take the brunt of that stress for them. I think God has really gifted me with a general sense of just loyalty and care for people that I work with and people that I love. And my clients are people that end up becoming people that I love more often than not. And so, I think it's such a really wonderful feeling to be able to help someone through something like that. And like you said, we do this over and over again, and we know, who to work with and who to call if there's an issue. And we have the ability to problem solve pretty quickly. Whereas, as clients, like you said, they're only doing this a few times maybe in a lifetime. And, if they did it 10 years ago, it's all relatively new and sometimes very different. Even if it's a different state, that's another thing. If they're moving from out of state, we all have different processes for how we do things. And so I really enjoy that piece of it, being able to really help people navigate that stressful element and really try and make it as fun as it possibly can be for them, to walk away thinking, that wasn't nearly as bad as everybody talks about it being bad. That's kind of my goal, even if there's trouble along the way, trying to prepare people for that. And then, hey, we'll deal with it. When it comes, we'll deal with it. We'll take care of it and we'll continue to move forward. And we're going to, sell your house in the way that it needs to be sold or buy the next one in the way that it needs to be bought. So, so I love that element of it. And then combining that, I think, again, mixing my kids with that, they get to see a lot of, sometimes unfortunately for them, they get to see a lot of the brunt taken on me, but it's really beneficial because I think they get to see the interactions that I have with other agents on the phone, the interactions that I have even as, while Jeremy is not in real estate, he is also incredibly supportive of what I do, and his his dad grew up building houses, so he's very familiar with that piece of it. And so we talk a lot just about, interactions that we have with other people and, issues that are coming up in different transactions. And so they get to experience a lot of those conversations and see, hey, this is how we deal with difficult situations, and this is how we problem solve. And I really love that piece of it for them to be able to watch that element and hopefully, learn a little bit about that.
Well, we were on our way to dinner and we had Shepherd and your son in our car, and Jed had to stop at a client's house just to see it before it went on the market. And Shepherd's like, can I go in? I love going into houses. And I was like, this is the world we live in too, that we take our kids, to go look at houses generally when we're not with clients, but we'll say, hey, let's go check out this house. So it's the world that our kids are growing up in, and it does teach them some really cool things.
Yeah, Shepherd actually homeschooled Shepherd for a year. And so he went into the office with me. This was pre-COVID, quite a bit. And I mean, he kind of became like the mascot in our office. It was awesome. They were great with him. But yeah, I mean, Hatcher, my youngest 11-month-old, goes on showings with me sometimes. And, most of the time my clients prefer seeing them than me anyway. So it works out really well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
So a little difference between the two of us is that you started real estate before having kids. I started real estate kind of in the middle of the crazy. So, how has having children affected your pursuit of both vocations?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, I'm very thankful that I did jump in when I did, because I really worked hard to build a business. And I remember a young executive telling me, like, push hard now so that once you have kids, you have some freedom, and then you can choose. You might still want to push hard after you have kids, but you won't have this time prior to kids forever. And so I took that to heart, even though I wasn't quite ready for kids. And I just gave it everything I had, and it's like a farmer. I was planting lots of seeds, and now the harvest has just come. And now it's like keeping that flywheel turning versus trying to get the flywheel going. That would have been really challenging, I think, for me personally, at the probably detriment of our family. So I'm thankful that I got to do that before they got here to build it. And so now I spend more of my time delegating, because I've built my business, I've built a brand, I've built confidence in my sales team of people that have done real estate with me, that they trust the people I trust. So it doesn't have to be me showing all the houses, where early on I showed the house, put the lockbox on the house, took the pictures, put the listing in, negotiated the contract. And now I can delegate out so much of that and only do the highest level thinking jobs, which is negotiating, strategizing, and managing. And those are the things I get really excited about. And I tell my clients that all the time. It's like, my team can do these things, but I love to do them, so they let me do it, because I get excited about negotiating and strategizing a really strong competitive offer. So it allows me to be home a lot more, to pick up my kids from preschool and to nurse my 3-month-old. And be home to make dinner. I mean, that was so important to me, to have dinner at home around a table. And I would say most real estate agents they don't have that type of flexibility. And so that's what I think my long-term goal when I was doing it before kids, was to lay the hard work now, the groundwork, so that I could reap the benefit and just keep that flywheel turning. So it's been really awesome in that for me.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I would ask you a challenging question, but maybe an easy one to answer. What is the hardest part of juggling the two? Because it's not an easy juggle. And I would think some people would stray away from even trying, because they're like, that's impossible. So what's the challenges you see?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It takes a lot of brain power, really thinking through, because you're navigating so much. And I'm honestly on the front end of my business of continuing to build, what you were working on prior to kids. And so a lot of, work goes into continuing to build the business and taking on the clients, and not quite having, the resources yet to delegate as much as, at some point, I'd be able to hopefully do. So I'm, definitely, I'm managing the calendars of 4 plus a grandchild children, and then the calendars of all of my clients, which, can definitely be challenging. I utilize a lot of services that are available, different ways that help me to manage those different calendars that are connected calendars that we, shared calendars that we have, that's been really helpful for the family as well as clients. And so that's been great. I think it's often just sometimes hard to quickly prioritize in the moment, if something comes up at home and, I'm needing to walk out the door for a showing, it's kind of like, we gotta do something fast. But again, I think that's where that help comes in. And sometimes, it's all right, load them up. Get in the car, we're going to put a movie on in the van and everyone's going to kumbaya while I'm in this house, and please don't come in. But, they're so good about, jumping on board and being helpful. And, I have, of course, my 20-year-old and then a 13, an 11 and an 11-month-old. And then, of course, our grandchild is 3 months old. So, with the range, also fortunately comes the 11-year-old and the 13-year-old are incredibly helpful and love being helpful. And so, we don't overutilize that because we certainly want them to maintain their childhood, but they love it and they have a lot of fun. And so, with the challenges, we also just strategize and work through it and make it happen. So
that's the part I think that I don't love is the spontaneity. I'm such a planner.
Yeah.
And so to even schedule things outside of real estate can be challenging because I don't know if next Thursday I'm going to be writing an offer, negotiating an offer, or scheduling a showing for all those things make it hard for my personality. If you're spontaneous like Jed, my husband, your brother, it's the best career because he's like, there's a squirrel, go. He's running and loves it. All that, just it's not monotonous at all. There's so much difference. But I think the convicting part for me was when Ellie looked at me with a play cell phone and said, "Shh, Mom, I'm talking to a client." And I was like, oh man, that's convicting. I mean, she's communicating to me things that I'm communicating to her. So that's the part that struggles for me is like, I don't want her to see me on my computer or my phone, but then I also want her to see me as a working woman and let her know that that's something she could do if she wants. And so that for me is a hard balance.
Yeah. I think another dynamic too for us is, of course, a lot of times because we kind of plan around availability, Jeremy is, of course, more available in the evenings. And so a lot of time, and that's typically when I would show houses a lot of times anyway. So sometimes there are challenges and us even kind of missing each other. He's coming in, I'm going out, not home until 8:00 at night. Some of the kids are in bed and, all of that. And so there's some navigating with that as well. Fortunately, that doesn't happen, all the time. And like I said before, he's so supportive and helpful that, we're able to kind of jump on board pretty quickly and like I said, maneuver what we need to and get on the same page. But yeah, it's, there's challenges there that are real challenges that can cause a lot of stress if you're not, fully grounded in relationship. And then you have those times where, okay, we are going to see each other Friday night, or we're going to have a conversation Monday afternoon or, whatever those things are. So I think we've had to learn how to kind of plan specific times where, we may miss each other several days in a row, but hey, we've got this time we're going to spend together, and we've got this time with our kids we're going to spend very intentionally with them, and then we just make that happen. So what advice would you give a mom who's interested in starting a career in real estate who maybe doesn't have the money to pay for childcare or other services to help them out?
Yeah, I mean, I think my suggestion would be to join a team just to get experience. Again, I went right in before kids, so I don't have experience to share like from personal experience, but I think I would go with a team that you could either be an admin for an agent, learn a lot of lingo, learn a lot of the skills associated with it and challenges. Try to get a consistent paycheck, build up some of your, financial reserves so you can have some independence there. And then maybe even set the tone of that with the person you're working with. At one point, I want to be on my own, or I want to be a buyer's agent for you or a listing specialist for you. But I'm coming in as an admin to learn as much as I can and grow from there. And then, like you said earlier, giving yourself a ton of grace, because if you are either a single mom or a mom that can't pay for different childcare options, like just giving yourself grace that the trajectory of your business might be a longer one, but I would say jump in and get the experience under your belt versus doing something outside the field that's not helping you get to your end goal. What would you say? Similar question is that, how would you help someone who's considering a career in real estate?
Yeah, I think a lot of, everything you said was very beneficial. I agree. I think it's very helpful to get as much experience as you can. I think that definitely develops your capabilities in the future. If you do jump in completely full time in real estate, then you kind of know what you need to do to really build your business a lot faster than somebody just coming in not with the knowledge that you would have. So I think that's definitely important. I think, finding a good brokerage to work with is so key. There are unfortunately brokerages that just don't train well. And so that was something that was really important to me, that I could find a brokerage I could work with that's going to train me well, that's going to be supportive of my current position in life with the kids that I have and, the availability that I do have, to not require too much of me, but also support my desire to learn and grow. So, the brokerage I work with, we have sponsors, and so we have people that bring us into the brokerage that work with us as well. And so that's another really neat thing, that I think if you can find someone who can mentor you and kind of help build you up in the knowledge base that you need, I would say jump in, go for it, get started on it.
And we're pretty much out of time, but I know you had one last question. I thought it was a really good one. So I'll let you ask that last one and I'll wrap us up.
Yeah, I think just knowing that this career can bring a lot of financial freedom. It's also a lot of investment in time and money. So how would you recommend, because, our market changes, it's ever changing. So what steps would you recommend taking to kind of recession proof your business?
That's such a good question, because I think that probably keeps people out of it, knowing that there is a lot of financial freedom, but there's maybe potentially a lot of risk is how they would see it. And my answer to that right away is work by referral. And the reason I say that is because if you build a sales team of people who know, like, and trust you and would do business with you regardless, that's going to hold you through those times when the market shifts or changes. Regardless of the market, people always have to buy and sell. So it might slow down and we might not have as many transactions, but people have to buy and sell for all variety of different reasons. Our area is very transient. People are coming and going. So that in and of itself is helpful for our business. But then knowing that you've got a grounded group of people that are your go-to people, that they would refer you no matter what, that they would work with you no matter what. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, is invest in those people to keep your business going, even when the market shifts. So I would say build a business working by referral as much as you possibly could. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much for doing this. This was so fun. I hope some of our listeners are maybe encouraged and maybe will decide to maybe not go into real estate, but maybe go pursue something that they've always wanted to as a mom, but didn't think that they could. Reach out to Tori or I if you have specific questions. We'd be happy to answer them. And we'll wish you a very Merry Christmas, everybody. I will be back next week talking about my top 10 books of the year. So if you're a reader or want to be a reader next year, I'll give you at least 10 that you can start working on. But anyway, Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks, Tori.
Yes. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
See you next week.
All right.